So on the front page of the People Daily, starting with this gentleman, what do you have on the front page of the People Daily? How Ruto spent 3.3 billion shillings on luxury. That is what we find on the splash of the People Daily. If you have your copy, you can run and get a copy of the People Daily. How Ruto spent 3.3 billion shillings on luxury. It's about opulence, and yes, it says that the budget chief indicts state for use of billions of recurrent expenditure, but a pittance for development. That is the front page of the People Daily. It has a breakdown here. 700 million shillings construction of modern presidential dais at State House Gardens. That is 700 million shillings. 400 million shillings is stated to have been used to purchase motor vehicles. That is 400 million shillings. Another 16.3 million shillings was used to purchase East African Community Cabinet Secretary Penina Malonza's official car. 16.3 million shillings purchase of East African Community Cabinet Secretary Penina Malonza's official car, and 1.6 billion shillings to cater for the facelift of Kenya International Conference Center, which is under a bit of some controversy there, where it should be sold to a private developer, private investor, or yes. So that is what it's here. And the person who is making all this is one lady, that is Margaret Nyamongo, who is the controller of budget. How Ruto spent 3.3 billion shillings on luxury. You can go ahead and take a look at what that story that is splashed there for you on the front page. Let's move very quickly. MPs get tongue lashing over jobs abroad. That is at the PG that was held yesterday at Naivasha retreat. President furious after leaders at Naivasha retreat appears ignorant of the opportunities. For few of us who've watched the clip and the president's speech, he was not so pleased. He was not so pleased. Why Kenya faces zoonotic disease threat. That is a story again that you can take a look at. But gentlemen, let me start with you, Naftali, now that you're here. Perhaps let me get your voice on this headline and combine with the president's retreat with the MPs in Naivasha yesterday. What do you make of this headline?
Yeah, 3.3 billion on a luxury is a serious joke. Mm-hmm. It is a serious matter. It is highly recommended that the people of Kenya know when we have the public finance under Chapter 12, mm-hmm. It means the people of Kenya wanted to anchor in our constitution what we call socialism.
Yes.
Socialism is an economic system based on state ownership of capital. Mm. So we gave the state the mandate to own our capital in regard to our resources and public borrowing so that they can now achieve the progressive realization of the rights guaranteed under Article 43, which are economic and social rights. So we have the control of budget, we have the Auditor General, we have all those more than 31 articles envisaging the public finance. Mm. It is again highly recommended that the people of Kenya understand what is our public finance system. Because when you see 3.3 billion going into waste, quote unquote, because luxury, honestly, luxury is waste. Mm-hmm. Yeah, luxury is like they were doing it for their own pleasure, not for the purposes of promoting the well-being and the benefit of the people of Kenya. So when you look at those basic generalizations that have been accepted as true and that are used as a basis for reasoning and conduct as far as our public finance is concerned. Number one, you find out that the framers of our constitution made those basic principles as far as public finance is concerned by coming up with some vocabularies. The first vocabulary is openness. There should be openness in financial matters. So before the control of budget releases money, because she has the mandate by the people of Kenya to authorize any disbursement after having been approved by the National Assembly, yes, there ought to be openness. Openness means it is I mean without obstruction to view or passage or characterized by an attitude of being ready to accessibility. So the public finance system, through the Office of the Control of Budget, should demonstrate openness. Number 2, accountability. Why is this money disbursed for? The reason for disbursement of the money ought to, I mean, they should be liable for their actions. Number 3, it is about participation. Participation means involving the people as the common what? The basic factor in public policy making. So when you find out that 3.3 billion, I don't know, in one financial year, I don't know. But when you see 3.3 billion, it's like one budget of account government. And to me, it is morally bad in principle and in practice. Yeah.
All right. Eric?
Well, good morning again.
Good morning. Good morning.
When I see this headline, I am not surprised. In fact, what shocks me is that 1 year down the line, there will be an entrepreneur. Remember, the entrepreneurs spend their money first, then the government pays them later. And my concern is maybe 1 year with the issue of recurrent pending bills, these might as well read next year, you know, 3.3 billion owed to tenderpreneurs in the country. And you know, the issue of pending bills has been a big issue actually since the last regime towards this regime. But also why I'm not surprised about this 3.3 billion is that, you see, the control of budget only checks what has been approved by Parliament. Now, before Parliament approves, there is a budgetary making process, and Kenyans are invited to go and do public participation.
Yes.
And I think, you know, long time ago, we used to have the budget read somewhere in June with the finance minister, you know, coming out of Treasury, taking a photo, reading a speech. But now the budget making process starts a bit earlier. And I feel that it is important for Kenyans to be interrogating what goes into that budget so that then we do not have screaming headlines of money that has been spent on largesse, you know, vehicles, while even schools are still reeling with problems of capitation. So it doesn't surprise me. In fact, if we do further audit, we might just realize that there are other ministries spending more on largesse. It's up to us Kenyans to take the mantle by our own hands and steer the budget-making process, which, by the way, has started in earnest.
All right. So the story continues here on page 4. The money was used to give State House a new shine, purchase cars, and construct a presidential dais. This one is actually an explainer here. You can take a look at that story again. A total of 16.3 million shillings was allocated for the purchase of East African Community Cabinet Secretary Penina Malonza's official vehicle and 1.6 billion shillings to cater for the facelift of Kenyatta International Convention Center. The State Law Office was given 250 million shillings for the refurbishment works of the former company's registry to create modern office spaces, and another 450.8 million shillings to cater for value-added tax refund to the U.S. Embassy. The story continues. This is just a complete breakdown by the COB, that's Control of Budget, Margaret Nyamongo, so you can take a look. And the question, it's a revelation about Ruto's government, according to the Star, bad spending habits, a report by Control of Budget, and this is correcting what you said, that it shows that out of the 1.4 trillion shillings sent to state agencies for the last 6 months, only 70.41 billion shillings went to development. 70.41 billion shillings out of 1.4 trillion shillings. So this is what we have. That should be almost half of it.
Yeah,
almost half of it.
You remember there are counties that spent zero.
Yes,
you remember during
exactly.
There was a previous also revelation where counties spent zero on development.
I think Nairobi was one of them.
Actually, Nairobi was one of them.
Yes.
So it's true. We cumulatively as a country, from the national government to the county government, we have bad spending habits. I think it's something we need to check in our DNA, how we are wired, especially in terms of spending money.
All right. Gentlemen, we have money. Tuko na pesa. Let's take a break. Not you, not me, but we have money. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with you. Stay with us. All right, very quickly. So let's cross over and see what's on the front page of the Standard here. A lot. The front page is quite busy. Standard newspaper, Raila AU job bid splits Azimio principles. That is what we have here. We have two gentlemen on the front, actually three gentlemen. We have got Raila Odinga, we have got Jeremiah Kioni, who is Jubilee Party Secretary, and Mwangi wa Iria, who's our party leader. And leaders say that the least ODM Supremo should have done is to inform them of the deals he was cutting with the president as a sign of respect and good behavior. That is on the front page of the Standard as a sign of respect and good behavior. Do we have good behavior in politics? Okay. Cabinet face-off as ministers. Rate time in office. President William Ruto is expected to outline his second-year vision after cabinet secretaries presented their key milestones while making pledges for the coming year. That is happening in Naivasha. Also related to that, Ruto rails at his party MPs over performance. I remember asking you so that you can also chime on that, but I'll get back to it shortly. But let's talk about politics a bit. The AU job is here, and who is Azimio quite okay with this? Naftali, quickly.
Yeah, that job, that AU job for the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is very crucial. It is urgently needed for him because the leader of his caliber, now operating internationally, is something that even his supporters long for because he has achieved some base. So when now he's being subjected to the international office like that one of the African Union as the chairperson, then it should sound, it ought to sound well for every person. So in regard to Azimio guys, claiming that they were never consulted, we don't know whether they were consulted or not. Because, you know, consultation, remember during Kibaki and I mean the coalition, people were arguing that this side is not consulting this side, and the other side is asserting that we consulted. So maybe a message was sent, a text was sent, a phone call was made. We can't tell exactly whether Raila Odinga consulted Jeremiah Kioni or Mwangi wa Iria or anybody. But whichever the case, whether he consulted them or not, is this the right path for the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga? My answer is yes. Yes. Okay.
It's not an emergency. The position of AU is not an emergency. It's been long coming, and perhaps there have been that conversation, you know, over a cup of tea, over, you know, a bottle of water amongst them. So it's not emergency.
You know, Victor,
right.
I have thought of Raila to be many things, but one thing I'm sure he's not is that he's not a chameleon. He doesn't change colors. He's been very consistent in the way he does things, especially when it comes to the issue of interests. You remember during the handshake regime, when it started, when Kalonzo and the likes deserted him during the infamous swearing in.
Yes.
And when it came to handshake, he did not consult them. When we were watching TV that morning, together with Kalonzo and many others, it was the first time we were all seeing Baba on TV. And Baba has been consistent. I would imagine when you see Jeremiah Kioni and Mwangi wa Iria lamenting on the front page of the Standard today, I would imagine they also saw the press, the presser, when I was also watching the presser. So he's been very consistent in the way he does things. Once he gets an opening, he does the act, then apologizes later, which I think is a good thing in politics, because the challenge of keeping on discussing with your core principles is that sometimes they want a bigger cake and a bigger share of whatever it is that you're going for than is necessary. So it is better to go and do the act and apologize later and say, you know, there was an emergency, or Obasanjo flew in last moment, he told me he had been sent by someone. It's easier to cook a story and move along with it than consult your core principles, and then they start telling you no. Because remember, one thing you must always remember is that Baba is a force to reckon with when it comes to national politics. And there are a lot of people that benefit so long as Raila is on the ballot, whether he wins or not, regardless. But there are people, so long as Raila is on the ballot, that's their lifeline. So if he goes to consult them on this AU job, they will tell him, no, don't go for this. you know, maybe 2027 is your time. But the way Baba has done it is the way I would do it if I was Baba. My only concern is that I was really hoping as Muturi Wandudi that, you know, we would have given Uhuru this thing, but nikama ishaenda.
But the question is AU quite friendly to former presidents?
No, it is. It is. If you check precedents, the first chair of the AUC was actually the former president of, I think, Mali.
But perhaps that changed because of, you know, there's that friendliness to chair that position because of interest. You are a head of state of a different country. You know, you are leaning towards some, you know, some Western nations and what have you, the interest. So the friendliness about the AUC chair, I mean, how?
No, in terms of, you see, the way that seat is structured, it actually needs someone who has had, if you look at the job qualification, it needs someone who has held a high position, either in government or in an intergovernmental agency, because then you're able to canvass your way around issues, you understand issues of the continent. You know, the issues of whether you support the West or the East is neither here nor there, because remember, even the AU headquarters itself is built by China. Most of the meetings they have been going to are funded by Americans. So whether you lean to the East or to the West, it's still the same. It's still the same thing.
Yes.
But I think this is a good, some history. Raila is not the first time he's acting on behalf of the AU. In 2002, he was sent to Cote d'Ivoire to go and mediate on the issue of Ouattara and Gbagbo.
Yeah.
Remember when Ouattara won and Gbagbo refused to hand over power. When Raila got there, funded by the Americans, by the way, and the African Union, Gbagbo accused him of siding with Ouattara, and so he was sent back. Then subsequently, Raila has acted as a chair of infrastructure in the whole continent. So he's not new to the African Union and the way it works. So I think for me, it's a good position for him to garner. And luckily for us, it's East Africa's time to get a candidate, because West Africa has had a candidate. North Africa, Faki, as he lives, he's closely tied with North Africa. South Africa, we had Madame Zuma also running. We had I think the former president of Gabon in Central Africa also was the chair. So I think these they will contend together with Jakaya Kikwete and the former vice president of Uganda has also declared interest in the seat. So it will be interesting to see how, especially in the East Africa community, the candidate that we present. Remember, Ruto last week ceded the AU chairmanship to the island of Comoros. In fact, when the president of Comoros was giving his speech, one of the things he did is thank His Excellency, the president. He called him my brother for ceding the position. So at least we have an ally in Comoros. We have an ally in Shikedi, very good friends with Baba.
Yes.
We have a number of allies that we can rely on. I'm not sure how Suluhu will favor us, and Babu Museveni on the other side.
And Kagame as well.
And Kagame. So let's see. The jury is out there.
The jury is out there. But does it really have an effect to Azimio? I mean, the gentlemen are speaking. Again, Azimio, they are feeling that Raila out there, it's going to leave some lacuna in Azimio. But Azimio is not, you know, there's no vacancy or there's no space left. You still have big boys there, led by former president. I mean, who is the patron? Naftali.
Yeah, okay. The fact that the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is leaving now Azimio, it means he's going to depart from Kenyan politics actively. So there will be a gap, obvious. It will be conspicuous, both nationally and from Luo Nyanza. Yeah, so people know that there is a gap, or there is disposed or inclined to be what? A space. So people are preparing for themselves.
What is good or bad with that?
Yeah, from one angle it's good, because some people are getting opportunities. Because now we are going to get new leadership. And I've said both nationally, because Raila was a national leader. He was also a leader representing a certain ethnic, because Kenya is made of ethnic groups. So people are going to emerge from Luo Nyanza to be kingpins because it is long since the Odingism had made inroads in Luo Nyanza. So people have some people from this region have become disgruntled, like this is monotony.
Azimio?
We have to broke.
Azimio?
But Azimio now, since he has left and there is
He's about to.
of course, you see, yeah, he is about physically, but mentally,
that's more of a prayer for him.
Yeah, mentally he has left.
This is the beginning of the end of Azimio. I mean, there is no better way of putting it. This is the beginning of the end of Azimio.
You think so?
Yes, this is the beginning of the end.
No,
if not the end in itself.
But we have got big boys who are also able to steer.
The only big boy now in Azimio, let me speak with Analyst and the sincere feeling.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
the only big boy in Azimio nationally is the former president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
We have Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, we have
he's
Gojira
not big as
Makioni,
such. He's
we
not
have
big.
Mwangi wa Iria, we have
When
Martha
I'm
Karua
talking
there.
about big in politics, you know what
Exactly.
I mean. Yeah.
But they can still steer the party, the coalition, even without Raila's participation. I mean, to gauge their strength.
Kalonzo alone, no. Maybe, but no.
Okay.
Kalonzo has no stamina.
That's a leaking ship. It looks very good on the surface, but it's leaking. This one is already getting in water.
Wow.
We just need to give it time.
Okay.
In fact, this is a vehicle on a puncher.
Let's cross over to Daily Nation. To Daily Nation, death traps in school. Gentlemen, we've heard about this for quite some time. The story says that families of these children who died in schools under unclear circumstances are demanding answers for the tragedies. More alarming is the congestion in learning institutions. One primary school in Mwiki has 5,000 pupils. Mwiki, just across here, crammed in one area, and the size of a football pitch. That's the size we all know. That some teachers warn is a disaster waiting to happen. We've had some situations where students die in mysterious circumstances. Of course, the students will always come back, and teachers, schools, and so many stories. Again, that's the story on the front page of the Daily Nation here. The increased enrollment without sufficient expansion of facilities is a ticking time bomb. Again, the story here, Ruto wants loyalty, total loyalty from Kenya Kwanza MPs. That is what's here again on the front page of the Daily Nation. The retreat still continues today in Naivasha, and that's what we are seeing at that particular point. You and I paid an extra 70 billion shillings to the Kenya Power. Gentlemen, Kenya Power billed Kenyans an extra 70 billion shillings. A story that is worth reading on page 10 of the Daily Nation. But coming back home, 1 second, we've had this quite a lot. Again, very quickly on the front page.
It's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
When we experience death in our schools, especially dealing with minors, it is very absurd. You know, one of the greatest emotional distress is when a parent buries a child.
Yeah.
It's better for a child to bury a parent than a parent to bury what?
Yeah.
It is so emotionally distressing.
Yeah.
So to those parents, I feel for them. I feel
Yeah.
sympathy.
Perhaps
but remember,
a school should be a safe haven for
a school
away from home.
Yeah, because we have freedom from, I mean freedom of the security of the person, where now children are included. You know, Mr. Oloo, I had indicated that there are some rights and fundamental freedoms that we have anchored in our constitution that are limited. But there are those that cannot be limited. And one of them is freedom from torture.
Yeah.
Cruel, inhuman or degrading punishment or treatment, freedom from slavery. So when you subject students to this kind of situations, then you contravene those very basic principles of our constitution from freedom from torture. And it is really absurd, if not perturbing.
Eric, 5,000 pupils. 5,000 pupils. That is the ratio, teacher to student ratio, you'd imagine?
This is actually a school in my county, Kiambu.
5,000.
In fact, the CS had visited there some time back. The reality is that the number of students there are way too many for that size of the school. And that's the reality replicated across many counties in the country. But most importantly also is the fact that, you know, a lot of land grabbers have grabbed school land. You find people have encroached on school property, and you see the population keeps on increasing. So the more you grab school property, and the ministry had started a phase where they were getting title deeds for schools, which I think is an important thing. But be that as it may, is to say that it's very unfortunate when you lose a child in an institution that was supposed to nurture them. And the reality is I commiserate with those parents. But most important is that measures must be taken to ensure that we do not lose a child, especially in circumstances that can be avoided.
Let's cross over and take a look at what's now here. Gentlemen, the issue of the president in Naivasha, it's taking on the front page of different dailies. I'll get back to that one very shortly. But when we look at what the president said, here we have it, again on the front page. How would you describe this particular event? We've seen how the president spoke. Let me start with you, Naftali. When the president called for a PG and the bigger government structure, we have got, cabinet secretary, PSS there to take stock of the government performance. And we've seen from that particular point, moving forward, how would you rate this if you are sitting in that meeting?
So what the president did is for the purposes of our national values and the principles of governance. Because whatever is happening or was happening in the Naivasha, as far as the government is concerned, is to have that new appraisal or evaluation of government policies, either to develop new ones or to reform old ones. So as far as public policy making and the public policy administration are concerned, the president is in order to call these big participants as far as public policy is concerned. You remember, a major aspect of public policy is law. So you must have parliamentarians there. Why? Article 94 sub Article 2, Parliament represents the will, or manifests the diversity of the people, represents the will of the people, and exercises their sovereignty. So when you look at this government, whatever they were discussing there is about how are we going to better our policies to work in conformity with the needs of the people. That is why we call them public. So any policy ought to be in line with the public well-being and the benefit. So it is a review. They were doing a review as now state and the public officers, because the president, through the state organs and the state officers, have a duty to observe, respect, promote, protect, and fulfill the rights and the fundamental freedoms to benefit the people of Kenya. And they do that through discussions, through what? Dialogue, through appraisals, reviewing what they have made. So ask me, the most thing that were expected by most Kenyans is a cabinet reshuffle. Yeah. Remember, there was one blunder that the previous regime have done under the current constitution. When you look at from 2013 to 2017, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta dismissed, sacked 5 ministers, 5 cabinet secretaries, and procedurally. From 2017 to 2022, he did sack 13, almost half of the cabinet, and procedurally. Why am I saying and procedurally? When you look at, because I'm expecting these things to be discussed there, so that now the president cannot come out again, repeat the same mistakes what Uhuru Kenyatta did. Because when you see Article 152, it envisages the cabinet. Sub-Article 1, the cabinet consists of A, the president, B, the deputy president, C, the attorney general, D, not fewer than 14, and not more than 22 cabinet secretaries. Sub-Article 2, the president shall nominate and with the approval of the National Assembly, appoint what? Cabinet secretaries. So what does it mean? The process of appointing cabinet secretaries is a dual thing. The president nominates, the cabinet, the National Assembly approves. If the president nominates and the National Assembly disapproves the nomination, then that person, that nominee, cannot qualify. It is a two thing. It is tied. So
of course, we saw it during the nomination.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, now when you look at Sabbatical 5, the president may reassign a cabinet secretary. B may do what? Appoint a cabinet secretary. So the process he used to appoint, it is the same process he will use to reassign.
What I'm quite interested to understand is it was not so good for the legislators. Perhaps they didn't expect, the lullabies, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, but some of them, as also we've seen, they were scolded. When they said, the president said that there were 2,500 jobs for nurses in a certain jurisdiction, certain country, and they said we are not aware. What did you make of that? I mean, Eric, I'll come back to you so that you can also respond to that. When legislators who were allied to Kenya Kwanza say that, hey, Mr. President, we are not aware that there are those jobs available in foreign land. You're telling us for the first time.
Victor, in an animal farm, there are different animals. And each animal has a different responsibility. And when you find that a donkey keeps on getting where the cow is supposed to be milked, then you realize that there is a problem. And one of the things that came out in this animal farm called Kenya Kwanza is that there are some animals that actually don't understand exactly where they are supposed to be and when they are supposed to be. And what came out is that the members of parliament, despite them accompanying the president, because the president actually picked out some members and said, so-and-so I was in your place, and I discussed this, so-and-so I was in your place. Did you guys think that I was discussing these things? They were hot air, I felt that there is a kind of communication breakdown in terms of what the executive is doing and how legislators perceive it and how they communicate to their constituents. For instance, the issue of nurses, he said out of the 2,000 nurses that they wanted from the country, they only got 500.
Exactly.
And the MPs, he asked the MPs, even if we were to divide here, we would divide 7, 7, 7, 7, and we would have gotten the nurses. And the MPs said, but we don't know the information. And the president went ahead to tell them that, look, we even advertised in the papers when I was with you. Like even Jesus, he was telling the disciples, while I was with you, they came and they never knew him. This is kind of the same scenario that is happening between the executive and the legislature. I think the president did well to put them in their place, because the reality is, in a democracy, there is interdependence as much as there is independence. And I feel that it is incumbent upon the legislatures to actually take seriously what the executive is doing, and most importantly, communicate the same to their constituents. I can tell you for a fact, take a constituency like Ruiru. If you go to Ruiru and Thika, the number of population that is there, we could have even gotten the 2,000 nurses easily. If we only picked Nairobi, just for example, if we only picked Nairobi and pick Ruiru and pick Thika, we would have gotten the 2,000 nurses.
Hold that thought. Just hold it there. We are going to pick it from there. Let's take a break. We'll be right back shortly with us. Stay with us. And your mic is on, Eric. We are still continuing the discussion here. The president had a meeting yesterday, and the MP said they are not aware of the jobs. Continue.
So I was saying there appears to be some sort of communication breakdown in terms of what the executive is doing and how legislature perceives it and communicates to their constituents. And I think that is one of the reasons why this parliamentary group meeting is important, because then it helps harmonize those key issues. And there's also something that came up. The fact that the legislature keeps on inviting the cabinet secretaries to parliament unnecessarily, that also came up. There's a bit of acrimony between how the executive and legislature, in terms of appearance in the National Assembly happens. I think that also came out very clearly. But all in all, it's a good thing we are having this kind of parliamentary group meetings. During last election, when we had Jubilee, there was no PGs that were held, and most of the PGs were lectures. So I believe this is a good step in the right direction, despite the fact that, of course, there appears to be some level of discord and some level of misunderstanding. But nevertheless, I believe those issues will be ironed out as we move forward.
Naftali, when you look at the whole, the whole cabinet meeting that happened yesterday, but then he's talking about the communication breakdown. But what that is really important to the presidency? If your members are saying that, Mr. President, yes, you're saying that, there are jobs, but we are not aware. What does that really tell you?
Are you certain that they are not aware? I can say I am not listening to you, yet I'm listening to you. Let us accept, let the people of Kenya accept that the same way the majority of Kenyans are disgruntled with this government is the same way some public and state officers have begun to be. So they are saying to the president, we know what you are talking about. But because you do some other things without involving ourselves, we are not going to respond to you. You ask and respond to yourself. Why? They have given up. It is now 2024. I'm here with you. Let us approach 2025. Then you will see the political heat. When parents are crying, when parents work from can't see in the morning until can't see in the evening, it is not a simple matter. It will cost this presidency. And I've been saying that this will be the first president to go for one term in history, in the Kenyan history.
Okay.
The people of Kenya are going to vote him out in large numbers. And if we insist that he will remain there, for the first time, the people of Kenya will exercise their sovereign power to dislodge him.
Allow me to say that.
If he uses force to remain in office for the first time, now that Baba is not there, we are going to get a David whom will be looked down upon, but he will wield power, and he will steer the people of Kenya, and we will have the right person whom we want to drive this.
But I think that allow me to also put it this way. Perhaps we are waiting for that vote power, 2027, to see how things will go. What do you think?
That's why I'm saying we have only two options.
Yes.
Through the ballot or the bullet.
No.
No, I think...
But again, what's the good thing about that retreat? If you look at taking stock of, as you also respond to that, Eric, what's the good thing about...
Before he comes,
okay.
If there was a genuine retreat, then what we would be experiencing is junior state officers speaking, expressing their views, not senior speaking to
no, but they are doing it.
No,
I think there's a preliminary. Perhaps that's what
I'm saying. The president could give the opportunity for these guys to speak to him, to listen, to give them an ear.
I believe Kimani Ichung'wah was given as platform to speak.
Kimani Ichung'wah is the president.
Let
me tell you what Kimani Ichung'wah speaks.
It's a plenary. It's a plenary.
I'm now giving you what I know.
Yes.
When you see Kimani Ichung'wah stand and speak, is the leader, is the majority leader in the National Assembly. He goes to State House like nobody's business.
But
so
Victor,
whatever he's speaking, he is the mouthpiece of the president.
I want to
I
want to disabuse the notion that William will be a one-term presidency, and I also want to clarify that he's saying that Naftali is saying that there will be a David who will come to liberate Kenyans. It is good to know your movement. When Jesus came, the Jews did not know that the Jesus they were waiting for was already there with them. This David we are going to look for, the David is already here with us. The issue of saying that a majority of Kenyans are disenfranchised and disgruntled could not be further from the truth. The truth is Kenyans are adjusting. We have just come from very serious economic issues. which this government, and you know I am a member of Kenya Kwanza, is really working hard to right the wrongs that have been done for the very many years. And so what Kenyans are going through is an adjustment. Even Victor, when you go through a breakup, or when you go through grieving process, there will be the process of denial, sometimes there will be anger. But one thing that we must accept is that there is no David that we are waiting for to come and liberate Kenyans. The David we purport to wait for is already here with us.
Gentlemen, I'm told you have to wind up. But my question is, how good is the retreat? How good is the retreat? Taking stock of the government, at least legislators coming together, putting heads together. Naftali, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Director is on my neck.
I said it is in order for state and the public officers to come down and sit down and have a new appraisal evaluation on what they are doing, to develop new policies and to reform old ones, to benefit the well-being of the people of Kenya. But let me finish by saying this. In his own words, and you will allow me to quote the late the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
20 seconds. Measure.
We are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgence of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacence. This is a time for vigorous and positive action. Full stop and unquote.
I couldn't agree more with him. Okay. And the time is now for William to deliver. Tomorrow we seek is today.
I like
and he's delivering.
I like that. The cabinet retreat still continues today in Naivasha. So we'll be taking a look at what really happens in Naivasha. Our colleagues and reporters are still putting their eyes and ears there in Naivasha to give us more details of what's really happening, the retreat, taking stock on what the government is doing and moving into the next year. We are wrapping up Good Morning Kenya at this particular point, but we are crossing over to Zinga, where Rashid Abdallah is having a discussion about safari ya usawa wa jinsia. A very good discussion there that you don't have to miss. You can also take a look at what we have on our social media platforms. The two gentlemen here are seriously taking their time discussing issues. Eric Muturi, what do they? There's a gentleman there, and yes, Naftali, Daktari, and yours truly, the man in black. Very good. The way you're looking at me, Naftali, I don't like this look.
You don't like why?
I don't like this look.
I don't like that look.
I don't like this look. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Asante.
Thank you.
Let's take a break. We're crossing over to Zinga after this. My name is Victor. Good morning.